Hey, Mike Rogers from the Mike Rogers Show here with you. Today we have Mr.Fab from WFMU Sheena's Jungle Room, Part 2. If you missed Part 1, the link is down here, so check it out. Anyway, here's Mr.Fab.
The station had a national reputation in the 90s before the internet.
Yes.
Because Rolling Stone magazine kept calling them the best station in America. And I knew about them because one of their DJs, Erwin Chuzit, would come to LA and guest DJ on LA stations. And they had their own magazine. I used to see it in Tower Records. The thing was, we couldn't hear WFMU in the pre-internet days. So people would actually call up on the phone. This is like a crude pre-internet thing where you could listen to WFMU on the phone. So that's how their technology got started, simply because people from around the nation and around the world wanted to hear them. And if you weren't in the New York area or Eastern New Jersey, they tried to come up with ways so that people could listen to them. So they very aggressively started by the turn of the century. At least by around 98 or 99, they put up their own website and they would post audio files on their website, which no one was doing in radio at the time. And then they started archiving their shows. So there are literally shows from like 20, 21 years ago that you can listen to. They were very low quality. I think they were using real audio, instead of MP3. But they started recording all their shows, so anyone could go onto the WFMU website to listen to these shows. And it was a smart commercial strategy, because then they started getting donations from people who didn't even live in the area. So it's a cool thing, but it was also a practical thing to raise more money, because WFMU is not part of any network, NPR or any of those networks. Of course, good. We don't run commercials. Even those, like, I don't know if you remember, American Public Radio would take donations from all these corporations, and they'd run all these, this hour of programming is brought to you by, which is basically a commercial.
Yeah.
And WFMU doesn't accept any corporate money, so we got to get money from somewhere.
Yeah.
So the idea was, since there's a national interest, there are people across the country reading Rolling Stone, and they keep hearing how great we are. Let's put our shows on the internet. And once you've got a website, then you can develop it from there. They started adding things. Well, you can do a chat function so people can say hi. And then people started putting their playlists up. So now DJs are putting their entire playlist up, and you can listen to it. And you can chat, which is a way of building audience rapport. Ken says this is important to the station because it builds this family community. So it's not just about the station. It's about seeing all your friends on the chat and getting to personally know the DJs and everyone. And that's going to keep people coming back.
Yeah.
And again, that's going to build up listenership and hopefully bring in the fundraising bucks too. So it just developed from there. A lot of stations rotate their archives. They only leave a show up for like a few months or something. Well, other stations are worried about copyright issues. And
I think that's what it is in Japan too.
But WFMU has been doing this for 20 years and it's not a problem. But you also really have to have a great tech team. Our guy Kenzo is this tech genius we hire who's basically building our whole internet structure.
Wow.
And he works as a consultant. So if you're just a community radio DJ, you have no idea how to build this entire internet structure we've got a team that does this. And that's another unusual thing. Most radio stations are just about radio and putting on audio shows, and the whole technology aspect is kind of an afterthought. With WFMU, it's in there the whole way. It's integrated into everything the station does. So the idea of then holding what we call the alt streams, like Sheena's Jungle Room, that just eventually came as an outgrowth. And I think it's because some DJs moved from the New York area. And so they were saying, well, we've got this website and we can play audio through it. We're playing the MP3s that our blog is hosting. We're playing archived shows. Can we just do another audio stream like Doug Shulkind of the Drummer Stream? He was the first one. He moved to Pittsburgh. So they set up his own stream, which is still going. It's the longest lasting of the 3 alt streams. I think it started 13 years ago.
Oh.
And it was just for his own show. And then he put up all these other tracks for the auto DJ. But Ken noticed that listeners were not really listening to the auto DJ so much. They liked having the live DJs. So Doug kind of pioneered the whole thing of doing a show live from your house, like a regular radio show, not just what so many other stations have done during the lockdown, where they just pre-record a show and send it to the station and the engineer plays it at some future date. So then Doug just started bringing aboard other DJs and it turned into its own separate station. And what's great about the alt streams, no FCC regulations. So we can play any naughty words we want. We can, we don't have to read the station IDs at the top of the hour. So there's more freedom. So that's really attractive to some DJs.
Oh,
so then,
go ahead.
And that followed another channel that's now known as Rock and Soul. And those were the only ones for like about 10 years because Ken said it's like a lot of trouble and it's expensive paying for these other internet streams. So he didn't want to have any other streams. But like I said, he was always a supporter of all my projects and he did want me to get involved in this station. So when I proposed the Sheena's idea, he said, oh, okay, we'll add one more alt stream. And now we've got 3. There used to be other alt streams that just played pre-recorded stuff. But we are now the 3rd one with live DJs.
When did Sheena's Jungle Room start on air?
Almost exactly 3 years, actually 3 years ago this past October. So was it?
Well, let me tell you something. Let me tell you something. So this idea, I wrote to you and told you that this is a genius idea. And it's actually so obvious. It's so obvious that this is what every station should do. When do you think, or how do you think, when are other stations going to figure this out and start mimicking you guys?
Well, let me tell you, even before the chat, there were other attempts. There was, I said, the blog, and people could leave comments on the blog, and there was a message board as well, where it wasn't for audio, it was just for people to talk back and forth. So I'm surprised that other stations are not doing this. Presumably they don't have to, because maybe with public radio, they're affiliated with a university, so they can always fall back on that funding. They can fall back on their corporate funding that they get. So maybe they just don't have to. And with WFMU, it's more a matter of necessity. But I would think commercial radio should focus on this as well, because public radio has really been expanding in America. I mean, in the 70s, no one was listening to public radio. It wasn't even a thing. It's really become so huge that universities are now using it to monetize their school the way the football teams were. Meanwhile, commercial radio has been dropping like a stone.
Yeah.
And I would think that as more like young people, when we were kids, we turned into the radio. We turned into FM or AM top 40 stations. Kids don't do that. My daughter doesn't do that. I don't think she's turned on a radio in her life. So I would think that really the commercial stations should focus on something like this, but they have not budged. They're still doing things like it's the 80s or something. I don't see any, all I see in commercial radio is ethnic stations taking over. Like in LA, what used to be a lot of AM stations that were like top 40 or sports, now they're like Korean or Latino or something like that.
Yeah.
So it's like commercial broadcasters are just giving up on being a major voice in the media.
With like a Japanese station, you know, they'll have like 100 employees. I'm not kidding. 100 employees, but none of the employees do any work actually. And now there's no sponsors. So, you know, people like, I can't remember his name, like Joe Rogan. He's doing his, I think it's a podcast. I'm not sure, but
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. He's got 7 million followers and he's got a staff of like 3 people.
Yeah.
So the Japanese FM stations cannot compete with these individual people like this. And this is another reason why JazzRack won't allow this on a worldwide level, because they have political considerations to keep these people afloat. And this is why it's going to take 25 or 30 years for this to change.
Wow. Well, maybe.
And this is why I think that WFMU has a killer chance in this country to become the most listened to radio station in Japan.
That would be great. What I'm doing with Sheena's is really going international in general. We've got a Dutch DJ who does a show from the Netherlands, and he has Dutch listeners tune in. We've got a Mexican DJ who does a show from Mexico City. We'll be bringing aboard soon an Australian show, and they all play music from their area that we don't really know about. And even just our British DJ, Georgie Girl, she plays British bands that never made it to the US. We have some Canadian DJs. I mean, Canada is just north of US, but there's all this Canadian stuff that we don't know about. So I think the international strategy is a way to bring in people who, people not familiar with the country, like those of us who aren't familiar with all this Japanese stuff, but also people from that country. So we have all these Canadians tuning in for the Canadian show, as opposed to just one big monolithic block audience.
Yeah.
That just all plays the same thing.
Yeah.
You know, like our Dutch DJ, he plays all these records from the Netherlands that never made it to the US. So we're really taking advantage of the international scope of the internet. I do tell all the international DJs, this is, you know, we're an American station. We have a mostly English listening audience.
Yeah.
But we're also very interested in different cultures. So feel free to throw in some Japanese language stuff as long as we know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Jan Turkenberg, our Dutch DJ, even has a segment on one of his shows, the Dutch Word of the Week, where he's educating his listeners. Here's one word, and he'll put it on the playlist. Here's the word of the day. And that's something you could do as well. We are definitely interested in other cultures, other languages. So that's fine. New music is great. I definitely would like more new music. We're all such, I mean, a lot of the DJs I originally brought on board, like I said, go back to this 90s strange music exotica revival. So we've got a lot of old stuff. We're always going through the thrift stores looking for weird 60s records. So feel free to play new music like you and Alex. There's another rock oriented show, the Canadians I was telling you about, Transmissions from Echo Beach. They're always playing new music, and that's great. And it fits in with the whole crazy, kooky, punk, silly vibe of Sheena's anyway. Yeah. So, yeah, feel free. I like your mix. I think it's a great mix to do what you and Alex do, which is lots of new stuff, especially stuff that we don't know and we can't get. and throw in a few classics, to make the audience happy. We can crank it up with our childhood favorites, but definitely we don't need to go too heavily with the oldies and the familiar stuff too much, because people do come to FMU to hear new things.
Yeah. I hear that you work at this station and you don't get paid any money. What? Are you kidding me? Is this a labor of love, or why do you do this? What is your dream?
It's a labor of obsessed madness. None of the FMU DJs get paid.
Wow.
Even some of the staffers back in the office don't get paid. There simply just isn't the money for it, with no sponsors. But we get to be on the coolest station in the world, so we're thrilled to contribute to the culture. We feel like we're having a positive impact on the culture, so that's very gratifying. And yeah, keep your day job.
So you've never been paid. The DJs don't get paid, but people put in their heart and soul and effort. And actually, I hear Alex and I talk a lot. He writes to me. He's like, I'm working on my WFMU show. Should I play this or should I play that? I'm always like, no, don't play that old music. And he's like, this is going to be a great show. They're going to love this show. And he gets so excited.
Yeah. Well, it's so cool. We just can't believe we're on our favorite station. I mean, a lot of us have been listening ever since it went online over 20 years ago. I've been listening all the time. So it's just cool to be now working alongside your idols and your radio heroes. And it pays off in other ways. I mean, being on WFMU definitely opens doors. You can get your own music played. You can send it to the station and other DJs will play it. You can get DJ gigs. If it's a great calling card, you're not just some schmuck with the turntable. You're a WFMU DJ. So you can possibly turn it into other things because now you're on a station with a major reputation. But you're still not going to get rich, and you're not going to be headlining sports stadiums because of this affiliation. But it's mainly just we can't believe that here we are on our favorite station. Yeah. It's just so damn cool.
So tell me about this butt software. Is that you guys' original invention?
No, it's invented by a young European person. I forget what countries he's from, but he just put it up as freeware, and it's just something that WFMU discovered as a useful way to connect a home studio to the internet. Other people use it too. It's not strictly a WFMU thing. Anyone can use it.
Who else uses it? Do you know that you know?
Well, when I've gone on butt forums, I see various people from all over. If like I wanted help on some issue, and there is a whole message board for butt for people asking questions. So I don't know exactly who these people are, but apparently it's starting to get spread around. I don't know if it's used in a live radio format the way WFMU does it. Maybe it's just to send pre-recorded shows I'm not really sure, but I definitely know that it's not an FMU invention, and it's just something that we've really latched onto, and it's been very useful. And you don't have to use butt. There are other systems as well. There's one called Mix, MIXXX. There's some radio DJ programs you can buy that come bundled with the software to go up online. So there's a few things you can use.
Okay. So overall, let's say I'm just some guy in London, and I'm reading this magazine and I'm reading this interview about you, and I've never heard of WFMU. what if in a paragraph or two, could you tell me what can I expect to hear if I tune into WFMU?
Well, it's free form. That is, we don't have a program director who tells DJs what to play. Even commercial and public stations might have rules, like the college stations in LA I'm familiar with. They would say you have to play a certain number of new releases from this bin, or you can only play stuff from within the station. You cannot bring in your outside materials. WFMU has no such rules and regulations regarding what DJs can play, except of course if you're on the main broadcast station, you can't violate FCC regulations.
Yeah.
But otherwise, it just depends on the DJ, and there might be one DJ who plays Prince bootlegs. There might be another DJ who's got a reggae show, another one who's got an avant-garde modern classical show. So it is truly freeform, and some DJs might not have a specific focus, and they'll just play a little bit of this, a little bit of that. So all I can say is what you can expect is you're probably not going to hear any top 40 stuff or any so-called classic rock oldies. Maybe every now and then they'll drop it in, but you will hear stuff that you probably have never heard before that might not even be released. And it's really completely unpredictable. It's freeform, so it's going to be very unusual and unpredictable, and it might be horrible noise that you will hate, but tune in 10 minutes later and it might be something very soothing and beautiful. So that's different from the alt streams. The alt streams do somewhat have more of a theme to them. The rock and soul channel, for example, is mostly 60s and 50s oldies. And Sheena's is the so-called lowbrow channel, where we play the crazy punk and the silly stuff. But since it is freeform, you never know. I mean, if a DJ wants to drop in a classical piece in between an old Mad Magazine record and a Ramones track, then they're going to do it.
That girl that's on before my show, Flannery. Yeah, her voice is so sexy. I'll bet guys are just fantasizing about her all the time. And when I first heard that show, my first week, I was listening to it, and I thought, what the hell is this? She's cooking food and being a DJ? Like, what is this for real? And I thought, this is such a brilliant idea. I could see taking this idea, going to a local FM station here in Tokyo and saying, yeah, it's a cooking show, and we can get sponsors like Kikkoman, Asahi, or whatever, Suntory, whatever, to sponsor this show. But I thought, nah, I'm not going to take this to a local FM station. Forget them. But
we have this kind of obsession with food and drink on Sheena's. I'm not sure why. Maybe it just all kind of goes with the idea of the good life. But there are a couple shows that have been pitched to me. One is a guy who's a bartender, mixologist, and who wants to integrate cocktail recipes into his show. And another one, another show, a DJ wants to focus on like one particular region and then give recipes for this region and play music from it. So kind of a combination food and music show. So yeah, we're going beyond merely sight and sound. I think we're going to branch out into taste and smell next.
Well, that's also a key point in building a community, because it's not just music, it's a lifestyle.
Mm-hmm.
And this will always keep people coming back to this station. Exactly. And by doing this in that way, I think it's much better than a regular station who would just have a commercial like, use Kikkoman soy sauce or whatever. And that doesn't affect me and make me want to join into the conversation. But the way you guys do it, I can go to the chat room and send me this recipe or well, that's really cool, whatever. You can write that and you get a two-way going. And that's the what do you call it? The golden, what's it
Holy
called?
Grail.
Holy Grail, yeah.
Holy Grail, yeah.
Holy Grail.
Well, yeah, and there's also the live events too. Mostly in the New York area, but I scheduled an event for a Southern California function, a convention called Tiki Oasis, and a few of our DJs were there. And Ken has this whole plan about the type of postcards to hand out. He's like, they have to be a certain size, they have to say this. So we make these. Oh, I think I probably have some. He sent me a bunch of swag, like here's a bunch of bumper stickers, give these out to the listeners. And we made some postcards. Here's a funny postcard of this
That's right.
woman, and we hand these out at events, at live events as well, to get people who've never heard of the station. They just came out for the show or for the convention. So interacting with the public in real life is also important, not just the internet.
It's the design sense of everything that I've seen that you guys do is really good too.
We have some very talented artists and graphic designers who listen to the station, so they contribute to the station in ways of t-shirts and bumper stickers. And there's really a fine line between listeners and staff members. It's not, we all started as listeners and then we joined the station, but we're really still fans of the station. So it's kind of like the punk DIY idea. Start your own band, and 1 minute you're watching the band and the next minute you're on the stage. And it's not like before punk where there are the gods like Led Zeppelin and they're way up on the mountaintop. Yeah, we're the little people down here. WFMU really eradicates that barrier. Okay.
Well, last question, and this is a very straight question. So how can I listen to WFMU, Sheena's Jungle Room? Well, what do I have to do?
All you got to do is go onto WFMU.org/Sheena, SHEENA. You can even go on to just WFMU.org and you'll see a drop down of the main broadcast channel and the 3 alt channels underneath it, and you can just click on any of the 4 and boom, there you go.
Wow, that's really simple.
Yep.
So and then you guys are going to have a fundraising thing in May?
It goes for about a month, but there's a 2-week what we call the marathon, where we do the hard sell, where we will be asking you, getting on the air and begging and pleading. For people, what we call the premiums, they're a special gift that you can't get anywhere. There's like the usual prizes, which is like a CD that you can buy anywhere, but it's like a thank you for $20 or more. But the premium is something that you cannot get, like this t-shirt, like your hoodies, and that's for a minimum donation of $75.
Thanks for talking to me, Mr. Fab.
Oh, thank you for offering. I'm always happy to spread the good word.
Nice talking to you.
Yeah, thank you so much. I'll catch you later. I'd love to.
Okay, see you later. Oh, this week's show's going to be great.
Okay, I'm sure it will be. Looking forward to it.
See you later. Bye.
All right, bye.